Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. A big thank you to everyone who has tuned in to our previous 100 episodes. As you know, we've just returned from a Christmas break or a festive break, and this is our first episode of 2024. And I'm delighted to tell you this is episode 101. I can't quite believe we've made it to 101 episodes. And what a great way to start the new year. A big thank you to everyone who continues to tune in on a weekly basis to listen to our guests, to hear their stories. Don't forget, if you want to be a guest on the Hare Krishna Project podcast, we would love to hear from you. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do not forget to hit the all-important subscribe button so you're kept updated about future podcasts. And also, please do leave a constructive comment. We love to know what you think about publications here at the Hare Krishna Project. And of course, if you're watching this on Facebook, please do not forget to like, love, or care for this podcast. Hopefully you're not too angry about it. And please do share the link in different groups and pages that you're part of. So let's kick off with episode 101. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our guest this week. It's Balaram Das. Hare Krishna.
Pranam, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on this show, Narada. I'm very looking forward to our conversation.
Balaram Prabhu, Balaram Das, it's great to have you with us. It's great to have an American back on the show. It's just, we've had a number of Americans over the last 3 years. So Balaram, let's start off with the first question. It's the easy question that I ask every single guest first. Please tell us a bit about you and where you're from.
Sure. So my name is Balaram Das. My English name is Brandon Jackson. I was born in a suburb in Texas, and I actually lived most of my childhood in the northern suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. And I went to the University of Texas. I studied physics and mathematics there, and that's where I found Prabhupada's first publication in America, Easy Journey to Other Planets, and which is how I began my inquiry into the Hare Krishna philosophy. And I'm 27 years old. I have been actively studying and attempting to be a practitioner for about 8 years now. And, it's saved my life, it's changed my life forever. And the goal of all of my endeavors is to, as much as I can, help people get to the platform of being at peace with themselves and understanding their relationship with God in whatever way I can do that, whether it's through my work or just through, social interactions. And so far, that goal has not led me astray.
So it was at university that you first came across Srila Prabhupada's books. Was that in the
Yes.
context of you were searching spiritually, or you just literally came across it in the library, or and what was your own background in terms of religiosity growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up a Southern Baptist. I was a very active member of the church community. I actually was a active member of a church called First Baptist Church Woodstock. It's one of the largest Southern Baptist churches in the world. They have locations all over the world. Pastor Johnny Hunt, I was a part of the church when the church literally used to just be his house, and then he grew it into this big organization with they have over 30,000 active members, I think. And you literally need to take a trolley from the parking lot to the worship center. That's how big the campus is. I was a 4-time Bible memorization champion, and I was extremely active in, we were at church maybe like 5, 6 times a week. And after about the age of 11 or 12 is when I started to inquire on some of the other religious movements and philosophies. Not super hardcore. I still stuck with, the Bible's teachings for a while. It wasn't until I got to university that there was a lot more diversity that I was exposed to. And
Hmm.
so I I was heavily involved with the Muslim community for a while and learned their practices and learned their teachings. I also was involved with the Buddhist community for a while, different forms of that. And there were a few, Vedanta schools that I used to sit at lecture at. There was the Ramakrishna mission. There was um, some people that are involved with Sadhguru, other movements and groups. University of Texas was a very big campus with a lot of different people. And I studied physics and mathematics for the purpose of trying to understand the universe, who I was in relation to the universe, if I was an accident or if there was some sort of, creator or purpose, or just the fundamentals of the reality. I didn't really get those answers from university. I didn't, while I tried to push my professors on it, it wasn't something that I really got any progress with. And so after a few years of study and being exposed to the various traditions and cultures, I was pretty close to giving up. I really wasn't finding any satisfactory answers. It was still the same old, well, why? And well, you just need to believe, you just do it type thing. And so I didn't have I didn't have a very large social circle in college because I was so focused on my studies. Um, but the one of the few associates I did have, she was actually studying abroad in Copenhagen, and a brahmachari monk actually gave her the copy Easy Journey to Other Planets for her to read. It was one of the older KBI publications, one of the
Mm.
originals, and she read a little bit of it, and when she returned back to Texas, she said, "I don't really understand what this book means, but I think you might be able to understand it." And she gave it to me, and it described in physics terms, who is God and our relation to God. And after reading that publication, I read it probably about 7 or 8 times, and I decided that this explanation is definitely conducive to my understanding of God, and there's no turning back after that. So that was really the turning point for me.
Before we move on, can I just ask a question about your parents and your church leaders? What did they think, or what was their reaction when you started to kind of delve into other spiritual traditions and ask questions and read the Quran and read the Bhagavad Gita and things like that?
Yeah, so my mother has always supported me in everything that I do because every morning when I was homeschooled, so my father would work and my mother would be teaching us, and we always had Bible study every morning before we did our regular schoolwork. And the one thing she always emphasized was the two laws that Jesus left in the Bible, which he said, um, uh, have a relationship with your creator and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Those are the two, main maxims that he gave. And so my mother always said, as long as you are treating other people, properly, what you're supposed to do, your opinion and what you believe is not really, the be all end all. It's really about your experience and what you're doing with it. My mother's very wise. I'm very thankful that Krishna gave me this mother in this lifetime. I want her every lifetime as my mother. And so she always supported me. Now the rest of my family, not so much. A lot of talk of hellfire and brimstone and things like this, but that's okay. It's all part of it's all part of it. I just tell anyone who has that opinion, I just say, well, then please pray for me. If you feel that's where I'm going, pray for me and help me out because I can't stop it. My father also is supportive of it. At first, he was a little more hesitant. He was the one who his family was Southern Baptist, and how we got started in all of it. But he's also an extremely intelligent man. And so after having conversations about the philosophy and less about the religiosity, he also has come to support it. And now he actually reads Srila Prabhupada's books every day. And
Wow.
so, yeah, and my brother also, I read him the Bhagavad Gita, and we had a very, great bonding moment there. and now he also, does his best to practice just as I do.
So in a moment, I want to talk a bit about you now being in India and how you got to India and that kind of journey. But let's just touch on a bit more about university and what happened after university. So you read one of Srila Prabhupada's books, Easy Journey to Other Planets. What kind of happened then? Did you then get involved with any groups or join any mats or sanghas at that point?
So right before I got the book, I was actually very attracted to Lord Shiva. I was seeing his depiction everywhere. It was, the hippie movement and the new age spirituality was very popular in Austin, Texas. It's very, very popular there. And so, people are selling his little figurines and, the Rudraksh. And, I read the book Be Here Now by Ram Dass before I had received Prabhupada's publication. And um, in the back, it talked about mantras used to invoke Lord Shiva. And so, and since I understood him to be the master of yoga, then I was basically asking for his help, because I knew I needed somebody to help me and teach me. But, I wasn't really getting that from the people that I was meeting in these different religious
Mm.
organizations. And so I was just chanting all the time. I wasn't looking at anyone. I just stare at the ground, walking to class or doing everything, just chant. I wasn't even paying attention to class. I'm just chanting in my mind and trying to, very desperate. I was very desperate. I'm like desperately trying to figure out if I have a purpose, if I'm here for a reason, why I'm born. What am I, am I just going to work and die? Like, what I'm really desperate to know. And so eventually, I kind of had a breakdown moment in my apartment. I'm like, look, Shiva, I don't even know if I'm talking to you or not. I don't even know if you're a real thing or if I'm just making this up in my head. But if you don't give me, some sort of sign or solution, then I don't know how much longer I can do any of this stuff. I don't know how much longer I can, just live a regular life and pretend I'm okay with it. And so I received a book after that. I felt like my prayers had been answered. And at the end of the book, Prabhupada talks about needing a living master in order to progress. And so I Google search, he's already left the planet for quite a while. And I had already seen a lot of some controversial things happen with the organization. And I figured, I've already gotten, at this point, I had already been essentially kicked out of the other religious communities. Like they all were just like, I don't think this is for you. They didn't, it wasn't like a big controversy, but they just kind of like maybe find something else. And so I'm like, how am I going to ever do that? Like, how am I ever going to find somebody? Like Ram Dass just got really lucky. He just like landed in India and did drugs and hoped that like he would find, his master, and then he did. But he's also gone. So who am I gonna, what am I gonna do? And so I pray to Lord Shiva. I go, all right, you've gotten me the knowledge. Now you need to give me the master. Okay, this is the one time I'm going to demand anything from you. Okay, if you give me this, I promise I will never ask for anything ever again. And shortly thereafter, I was introduced to somebody in a Bhagavad Gita study group who encouraged me, who said, chant Hare Krishna and read Prabhupada's books, and slowly over time you will come to the right platform for yourself on where you're supposed to be in your life. And it's a very touching story. I plan on telling more detailed story in my autobiography that I'm writing. Um, that I'll hope maybe one day actually complete. But yeah, my life has been very involved, and uh, there was a lot of extreme ups and downs during that time in university. But after finding Prabhupada's books and just trying my best to kind of follow his purport, I was able to kind of settle my life. After I finished university, I went back home and lived with my mother, took care of my mother, and just I learned how to become a chef and learned how to. I worked at a vegan restaurant, and so I learned how to prepare prasad with cleanliness and like how I learned very easily because the vegetarians and vegans love garlic and onion. So I learned really, really fast, like all the different kind of modes of food that there are and how they work. And it was a very great experience. And then that's led me up to now that has now I'm in India. I'm in north central northwest India, and I am able to do the work that I'm doing remotely using this modern technology. And through kind of more passive means,
Mm.
preach this message.
So how did you get to India? I don't mean literally, which flight did you take or, what
Yeah.
date did you go? But what took you to India? What was in India that was kind of calling you or drawing you? Why didn't you just stay in the United States and read lots of religious and spiritual books?
Right. Well, I did do that because it was only last year that I came here. When I first uh, uh, read Easy Journey to Other Planets, I was like, wow, well, I'm just going to become a monk, a sannyasi, and go live in the Himalayas,
Hmm.
in the Himalayas. That seems like the most obvious thing to do because I don't know what else I'm going to do.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
not like I'm just gonna I didn't have any desire to work. I didn't have any desire to have a family. I didn't have any desire to do any of that stuff at all. I had, in high school, you're kind of exposed to all of it without any recourse.
Hmm.
So, I learned very early that in general that I was just running into a bunch of problems becoming very materially successful. I graduated top of my class. I was the captain of a bunch of sports teams. I had like the most volunteer hours. I had a full ride scholarship. I had a full-time job when I was in high school also. So I had money, I had the accolades, people, I was generally well liked, I was popular, I was winning like talent shows and like I was just a very materially successful person, but I was extremely unhappy. And so, after reading Prabhupada's publications, I'm like, I mean, what else am I going to do? Am I going to go back and strive for the material stuff after I've been there, done that? No. And so I wanted to just go and live in the Himalayas, but I was instructed, no, there's a reason you were born in America, and so you're going to use that American, status to, do some great things in the world. And so, I was told that I needed to get involved in business and learn, not rush in anything, but get involved in the modern ways of operating. And so that's what I did after I returned from university. I never used my degree. I started a landscaping business and just started learning how to garden, learning how to, trim trees and how plants work. And I did that for a few years. Then after COVID-19, I got full time into what I'm doing right now. I run a business trust, so I'm a consumer advocate. I help people with their credit. I help people with basically managing their money. I can help budget. I help people start businesses, help people get their businesses funded, find investors. Um, I also help people with legal issues. I am not an attorney, but I'm training to be a paralegal. So I'm basically a pseudo attorney. And uh, I've been doing that now for I've been doing that 5 years publicly, but about 4 years full time. And I haven't looked back, and I will continue to be doing that as a profession.
For somebody who appears to be under the age of 30, you've, which I think you are, well, I know you are because you told me
Yes.
before we started recording, you've achieved a lot materially,
Yes.
you've done a lot, and you're one of those people that just likes to be engaged with doing things. I'm similar, a bit different, but I'm similar. I want to be doing things all the time, both materially and spiritually. I want to just do stuff with my life. I don't want to waste time, watching terrible TV or hanging out with
Right.
people that I have nothing in common with or have no common goal for or with. So
Exactly.
my hats off to you for just being active in so many ways. It's fantastic. I want to talk a bit more later on about the projects that you're involved with. But tell us a bit about the temple or the ashram that I believe that you run in India.
Yeah, it's a very humble place. Acharya and his family invited me here, and it's become my home. Really, it is an ashram, so it is a place that we are actively engaged in Krishna consciousness while we are living our day-to-day life. Um, we're here again in Rajasthan. We're in northwest Rajasthan, and we're starting from very humble beginnings. We have a we have a charitable trust that we're running, and the goal of the charitable trust is to engage people in spiritual work, meaning normal the four goals of life, Kam, Art, Dharma, and Moksha. Um, but to engage people in that without them necessarily having to subscribe to a particular, tradition, if you will, because so people are welcome here in and out. It's not a very formal institution. We're not like a formal temple where we're, having people, come in, enroll, and engage full time like that. It's really meant for people who, a lot of the people that have come and visited are from America or they're from other parts of the world. And so, they're eased into the philosophy, the understanding. They eat sattvic prasadam, they take sattvic prasadam, and they, are exposed to the philosophy and the understanding, but also from a way that can be digested because I have been to so many places and I have, talked to so many kinds of people. Krishna has blessed me with the skill of being able to communicate and help people comprehend what we're doing without it sounding like a foreign language or some sort of, everybody has an innate concept of spirituality. So, we do encourage people that we do believe that the, Vaishnava Sampradayas, that the Bhakti circle is the most complete spiritual science. But that doesn't mean that any other tradition is without some sort of, impetus. We just and we don't encourage, we don't require anybody convert or anything like that. But we're starting off very humbly, but we're looking for supporters and looking to slowly but surely expand to touch more lives and engage more people in our endeavor to try to remember that we're not this body for at least a couple seconds.
I just wrote down because I love the expression that you just used, or the terminology. You just said the Bhakti circle is the most complete spiritual science. I mean, I kind
Correct.
of know that intellectually, I think, but I just love the way you put it. It came across the Bhakti circle, and I guess in terms of the Bhakti circle, you're referring to all the different mats and sanghas and groups and lineages that practice Bhakti, that are under the kind of Bhakti umbrella.
Yes.
Yes, because here at the Hare Krishna Project, we're passionate about inclusive Vaishnavism.
Correct.
So,
Basically, we're trying to do things without a desire.
mm,
My apologies. I think there was some lag.
I think there was a bit of a connection issue. This is what happens when you're doing a podcast with someone in India. I don't know. Maybe the Wi-Fi connection's fantastic at your ashram. Um, it was fine. It went off for a bit of a glitch, but it's fine. So can we talk a bit about your spiritual guide, just briefly, if you can? I mean, obviously you've gone from the United States, from Texas, from Atlanta, Georgia, to Rajasthan, India. Most people don't do that in their lives. Most people rather stay in the
No.
West where it's comfortable, perhaps not the weather, but it's comfortable, there's great food, and you've got wonderful things to do. So tell us a bit about the
Yeah.
person, if you can, that it has inspired you to make that change and move to Rajasthan.
Yes. This was Acharya was who Lord Shiva brought me in my life, and gave me the instruction that chant Hare Krishna, read Bhagavad Gita, read Prabhupada's books, and slowly but surely you will come to the complete understanding of what it is you're looking for.
Mm,
Okay, and it's, I one day I will go into this story very intimately, but essentially when we first met, there wasn't very much verbal communication because he didn't have the ability to speak my native language. And so, most of this is using Google Translate and, more of a non-verbal communications. And then, I'm essentially training for about 7 years in America, in various ways. I'm trying my best, rising early, doing the sadhana, doing the reading. I didn't realize till I got to India how bad my Sanskrit pronunciation is, but it's
Mm,
definitely
mm,
improving a lot more now that I'm learning from the bona fide authorities, from the people who are very learned in it. And then once I arrived in India, because I was trying from the beginning to do it, but there was just a lot of life circumstances that were not allowing it. There was, family drama happening. As soon as I began this bhakti pursuit, is when all the problems started. At first I really didn't have any problems in my life. Like I really was everything was good. Like I was being coasted to the typical middle class, life, basically is like I'm going in that direction. I was actually going to become a physics professor before I decided to change my direction. And uh I just family drama. My businesses were actually doing really well, so I had to stay because I am the face of the business. And then I started meeting a lot of people in different parts of the commercial world, bankers. I started meeting attorneys. I've been very Krishna has brought to me people who will be important for this movement. They just don't know it yet. And uh, and then finally, and then I was about to leave before COVID, and then the whole country shut down, and so that delayed my trip for about another 2.5 years, and so then after things started to open up again and get normal, I finally was able to come, um, and been here for almost a year or so, and once when I first got here, we traveled to Dubai for a little while. I started a company there, and it is not the paradise that they advertise, in my opinion. I have a great respect for the people there. They treated me very well. I met a lot of the people that are involved in Dubai's different social circles. They treated me extremely well. It's actually illegal to criticize other people for their spiritual inclinations, regardless of if they're Muslim or not. So I have great respect for the leader there. But I started the company there, and then we traveled to Ivory Coast. I have a god brother who lives there near the capital in Abidjan, and we actually met a very wonderful sannyasi. His name is His Holiness Bhakti Chaudhry Swami Maharaj, and he's in the capital in Abidjan. He's in the north part of Abidjan, with the temple that he has there that he runs. He's currently touring right now. He's going to be here in India in February. And he really inspired me to connect with all the different groups all over ISKCON. He's actually who inspired me to reach out to you, because I asked him what he would like me to do. I said, please, give me some instruction. And he said, well, I want you to just, preach and do what you can and go and teach everybody what we're about, and try to give not just our organization, but also give the practitioners of this philosophy a good name. And
mm,
so that's what
mm.
I am attempting to do in these conversations.
And so, just to clarify, because a lot of our viewers might be new to Krishna consciousness or who have been in Krishna consciousness for a long time, the guru that you met in Ivory Coast is an ISKCON sannyasi.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, and I know that we talked about this before we hit the record button, but just so our listeners understand in terms of where things fixed together. I mean, I'm kind of a typical bloke in the sense that things make sense in my head if they're in boxes and I can label them. I know
Right.
also that all, we're all encompassing and all one in one sense. I also like that
Yes.
approach as well, but I learn better by visualizing things in groups or blocks or whatever, which isn't always actually helpful. So you met the
Yes.
wonderful ISKCON sannyasi. Um, you still have a good relationship with him and you communicate with him regularly?
Yes, I try to commute with him daily. So I try to record my Srimad Bhagavatam discourse and our Bhagavad Gita
Mm.
discourse. And so I record all these and I always send it to him. And my god brother Bakuma, he who lives in Ivory Coast, we're in
Mm.
communication daily. I'm very, very close with him. And yes,
And can you just
to help you.
clarify who was it that said that you needed to kind of spread this message and spread bhakti? Was it the ISKCON guru or was it the Guru Maharaj that you're now under the shelter of in India?
Well, both of them have given me the same instruction.
Oh, good.
So,
Okay.
the family here, they're called the Parikh family.
Okay.
Okay, and the family, they're part of the what we talked about off the air, the Gotra, Gautam Gotra, part of the Brahmana,
Yeah.
lineage,
Yeah.
that Gautam lineage, and him and his whole family have taken me in, and he's the one who gave me the initial instructions, just take slowly but surely and come to understand what your position is here, in the world, and just do what you can. And then we went together to Ivory Coast where we met, Swamiji, and he's literally in our dreams every day. Like, he is very spiritually active. He's a very spiritually, I won't say powerful. I don't like to use
Mm.
that word because we're not trying to get power, but very, very potent personality, very, very similar to Prabhupada. Even though he was in an old body, he was the most potent man that you ever met. He was just he had so much vril, he had so much gumption and so much will to follow his master's instructions. And so I found that to be the same with Swamiji. The Parikh family,
Mm.
they're a big family in India, because it's not like the English way where we have our last name Jones, or that's our last name Jones, that's our family name. Here you have the family name Parikh, but then you have your Gautam. That's like your Gautam's kind of similar more to like your family tree and your actual DNA lineage. And Parikh is like a larger, broader Brahmana family, like the Guptas,
Mm.
and the Patels. There's you can meet someone who's a Patel and you're a Patel, but y'all are very genetically far apart. But your Gautam will tell you closer about where your genetic lineage goes.
Mm.
So like, we have some family who they also are married to other Pariks, but they're part of a different Gotra.
Mm.
So they're not, there's not that improper genetic mixing. And so no, I'm also we're starting a YouTube channel where we're promoting our grandmaster. He goes by Dr. Damodar Shastri, and he gives great discourses on Bhagavatam. And we've made some music, some bhakti music, things like that. But his son is who you know acted as that anchor for me while I was really desperate to have an acharya, and then that's evolved to also meeting Bhakti Charadeshna Swami. And I try to see the master in the heart,
Mm.
where they are, because that's where they are. They're trying to lead you inward. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. It's one of those meetings where it's like you already know that person. Like, you've met them many times. There's, while there is great respect, there's a familiarity. You're not nervous. You don't you It's like what to expect. And so far, I'm just extremely favored. Even all the challenges that have come by have only made us stronger and made us more capable and increased our resolve. It really has been a very encouraging path, ever since I first read Srila Prabhupada's publications.
Your story is fascinating because your kind of introduction to kind of um, I guess Vaishnav or Bhakti philosophy was through the books of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
That's right.
Now, um, now you're living in an ashram or you're running an ashram in North India,
Yes.
which is part of, in one sense, part of a different Sampradaya.
Yes,
Um,
technically.
yeah. And I love that. I love because life isn't a straight line, is it? Life isn't
Yeah.
necessarily like that. It's kind of not kind of monotone and everything's the same, but actually
Yes.
it's a collection of things, and everyone's journey is completely different.
Yes.
You
Lord
know,
Shiva literally took me under his shelter.
mm,
He brought me into, what is considered his bhakti lineage.
mm,
Of course, we also have the same agreement. Vallabhacharya has the same purport as um, uh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the Sampradayas really being one. They
yeah,
really are one. They're meant to be one. Really, they just spawned out of, I believe, out of a cultural response, and of course, out of the greatness of their Adi gurus, their original acharyas.
mm,
The Balabadish Sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya it's very established in India, and it has a lot of householders who are in it, who are participants. Before Prabhupada made the Gaudiya Vaishnavas extremely popular, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were more well known for being more scholarly people, and most of them were, either Brahmachari order or the sannyasi order. There wasn't as many householders who were participating with that particular sangha. Um, and then you have Sri Sampradaya, which is also very well established in India and different parts of India. And then you have the Kumara Sampradaya, who that's probably the one I know the least about, which I've always been inquired to learn more about. I've always wanted to know more, and I have a feeling that I will the more I stay here in India. But those four sampradayas are what's considered scripturally to be the bona fide sampradayas.
mm,
And
mm.
so, regardless of which one that you're a part of, you are still under the original Acharya, who's Krishna. He's the original master.
Mm, mm,
And all I have found that all the
mm.
teachings of the different acharyas from the different sampradayas are essentially the same. They are just tailored to time, place, and circumstance. But the actual principles have always been the same from my experience.
Yeah, definitely. I was just reminding myself of the four Vaishnav Sampradayas because, as we talked about before we hit the record button for this podcast, for so many years I've been so kind of ingrained or kind of seeped into the Gaudiya Vaishnav tradition, and I can talk about Gaudiya Vaishnavism for years. My book was on Gaudiya Vaishnavism. I've done so much research on it, but other Sampradayas I know very little about. And what's been great about preparing for this podcast today is I've had to kind of read up or remind myself of my limited knowledge on the other Vaishnava Sampradayas. And so it's been really good for me to prepare for this podcast today. Can we
Right.
just, I know that he's kind of super humble and he doesn't want much attention. Can we just name your spiritual guide there in India so he just gets a little mention on the podcast? Can you remind us of his name?
Yes, he actually has the same as Sri Krishna's master. So, Sri Sandeepani. Yes, is
Okay,
his name.
great.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yes, there's a funny, it's hard for me to say because there's a well understood thing here here in India, like the wives never pronounce the name of their husbands, and we also generally don't pronounce the name of our acharya just because it's a respect thing,
Mm.
so I apologize. It's just sometimes it's difficult for me. I know there are other people that have opinions about being impersonal and all that.
That's fine.
I know them.
And in many religious traditions and philosophical
Yeah.
traditions, it's like that. I'm thinking particularly of the Orthodox Jewish tradition, where the name of God is so holy, you don't say the name of God out loud, or you don't write the name of God in full. So like Yahweh, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be written in full. Certain letters would be missing, and so I think maybe in
Right.
the Sikh tradition it might be the same, but it's certainly like that in the Orthodox Jewish tradition. But don't worry at all. When I will write your Guru Maharaj's name in full when I promote
Yeah.
this podcast. But thank you for
Right.
sharing that with us. And I love how, despite he himself kind of being part of the Sri Rudra Sampradaya, is really open and encouraging of you and others engaging with different sampradayas and different mats, and even having a relationship with this kind of Gaudiya Vaishnav ISKCON guru in Africa. I think it's wonderful. Life's too
Yes.
short to be building brick walls, and we should be focusing on what we have in common and how we can share bhakti with the world, because the world needs bhakti.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. It's the only thing that's going to save us from the inevitable of Kali Maharaj's duty. We can't stop Kali Maharaj. He is also a great devotee because he did surrender to Maharaj Parikshit. So, we can't have a negative view of Kali. Without Kali, then we wouldn't be able to benefit from the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Because without him, Maharaj Parikshit would not have been, we actually just read about this the other day. So, I believe it's in the 16th chapter or the 17th chapter of the first canto. Maharaj Parikshit encounters Kali, abusing Dharma and Mother Earth in the form of a cow and a bull. And so, after he confronts Kali and he gets ready to slay him, Kali then surrenders unto him, and he, and Maharaj Parikshit is a very saintly person, and he knows you can't kill somebody who has no weapon and who has surrendered to you. It's not part of the code of conduct. And he's also a very compassionate person. He's actually smiling, looking at Kali, saying, "Look, I'm not going to kill you, but you can't stay in my kingdom. And so you can stay in the brothel, you can stay in the bar, you can stay in the slaughterhouses, and you can stay in the gambling houses." And Kali says, "Well, I still don't have anywhere to go because these places are not allowed in your kingdom. So, and your kingdom is the whole world. And so, since these places are not allowed where you are, give me a place that I can actually take refuge." And he says, "Okay, you can also take refuge in gold." And so, now he's in these 5 places. And then right after this, he then goes on an expedition, Maharaj Parikshit, and he's wearing his golden helmet, right? And Maharaj Parikshit is not wearing Tulsi. People don't know, he's not wearing Tulsi. And so he's not protected by the influence of Kali. Because he's wearing gold and not wearing Tulsi, because you have people who wear Tulsi with gold around it. The Tulsi protects you from the negative influence of gold and wealth. And so he's wearing his big jewel crown, and he becomes thirsty, and he goes into the Brahmana's hut, and he's thirsty, and he becomes agitated that he's not being respected by this Brahmana for not recognizing him and offering him water, offering him a place. So he throws the dead snake on him and leaves. And then when he leaves, he takes off his helmet, or he takes off his crown, whatever you want to call it, and he immediately realizes, "I am a great fool. I just disrespected a Brahmana. I don't even want to live any longer." This is in the next chapter. And then he finds out right afterwards that he had been cursed by that Brahmana's son. And he said, "Yes, this is very good. This is exactly what I wanted." And then he goes to the Ganga, and the Srimad Bhagavatam isn't spoken. So had he not let Kali Maharaj live, had he not given Kali the ability to take refuge in gold, he would have never disrespected the Brahmana, which would have never have led him to become cursed and never have led him to take refuge of Shukadev Goswami. So we cannot have a negative view of Kali, of the age of Kali. In fact, I have great respect for Kali, because he also made it to where I only have to think about good things for them to have a positive effect. Whereas I am only effective negatively by that which I actually perpetuate, the negative things I actually do. And so all of the spiritual books in our age talk about that. The Quran actually talks about you have on your left shoulder, you have the bad angel, and on your right shoulder, you have the good angel. The good angel records every good deed that you do and every good thought that you think. Whereas the bad angel only records the bad deeds that you commit. He does not record the bad thoughts that you have. And so, this understanding of this age is well known. And so this is the perfect time to be alive.
Can you tell us a bit about the projects that you're involved with and the initiatives that you run? Because I've seen online that you're very active. And you did mention briefly to me in one of the emails that we exchanged before this podcast some of the business activities you do. You've mentioned briefly already about a business trust and being a consumer advocate, but can you talk a bit more about the work that you do in terms of the advice and help that you give people?
Yes. So currently, professionally, I run a business trust. It's called the Masters Business Alliance Trust. And so our trust we're a consumer advocacy group. We're also a civil rights and lawful rights group where we help people exercise their rights in whatever capacity that is in a very equitable way. We also like to purport ourselves as master. We call ourselves the Masters Business Alliance Trust because we're masters in equity. The master equity is essentially the legal version of karma. And so, it says that he who wishes to receive equity must give equity is that means as you sow, so shall you reap. What you do has equal opposite reaction. And so, we've it actually started, and all my socials will be on that link tree. My first video I did on YouTube was talking about how my father was a government employee for a long time, and they actually sent him to prison for a number of years. And I actually studied the law for a long time as a child. And eventually in 2019, I got him out, and when I got him out is when I basically decided that I was going to do this full time in whatever way I could to help people navigate this system. Because even though my father, I'm not saying he's a perfect man, he did not hurt anybody and he did not damage anybody's property. And so by definition, he did not commit a crime because a crime requires a victim. It requires somebody who is actually, hurt. Technically, if, all these people in jail for drugs and for, white collar crimes are, they're not really crimes because you need a victim, you need somebody to hurt them. And so I exercise that and I talk about how I do that in the video. And when I did that and it was successful, and basically the entire county, the whole city government was like, look, just leave us alone. You can take them, do what you want, go where you want. You can go live wherever you want, do whatever you want. Just please leave us alone. And I was like, okay. And so, I was like, this is so effective that these people are afraid of me. And all I did was write some letters, and I'm not trying to intimidate or coerce. And so, it led me to know that there's power in the words that you use and the intention
Mm,
that you have.
mm.
And so I made that a full-time thing. So our trust, it offers, the first thing that we did was we helped people with their consumer credit, which is a really big thing in America. It's probably pretty big in England too, but America, I mean, somebody can literally apply just by having a tax ID number and get a lot of money, access to a lot of money if they want it. So it's a big thing. You need good credit just to like get an apartment or, just to get necessities in the modern city life in America. And so I was helping people with that for a long time, and I still do. I evolved that into helping people. I was helping people basically stay out of court. I was helping a lot of couples who didn't want to get legally married because of all the legal complications, but still wanted to be married and recognized. I actually am I'm a qualified, what do they call us? I can
Celebrant.
marry people. Yeah, I can.
Celebrant.
Yes, I I
Yeah.
am I am allowed to give people matrimony. Um, and I would do that for some people. I'd also help, for people who weren't together, who had children, I would help write custody agreements, make sure that they had an understanding of, raising their child and staying out of court. Um, I help people with banking. I have some decent knowledge in the banking world and international banking law. And I had become introduced to people who work in various financial sectors, like in securities and in commodities trading. And so I do help some clients who are, a little bit more established. Maybe they're more wealthy, with like structure and protecting their assets. I am a trust expert, so I'm very well versed in trust and trust law. So I help families, establish their and settle their estates, try to stay out of probate, try to basically I help people with whatever commercial or legal problem they have because the legal system is all commercial. It's just all a big business. In fact, I have many posts on my various socials on how the courts literally monetize their court cases.
Mm.
They literally create bonds and securities, and they issue them to big funds like Fidelity and like big hedge funds and stuff like that, and they monetize these legal cases. And so I help people navigate that, and the help people. We had 4 people in December we got out of jail that had been charged with victimless crimes, and we got them out. And that's and we just continue to grow as I add more people to the team. I have some attorneys that are involved in my trust, and they help with various aspects of law. We have a few securities brokers that help. We have a few CFOs of some companies that give their advice. And so the goal is to create a business that is just helping people with their general business problems or business solutions. And we're doing very well for ourselves, and that's all thanks to Krishna. That's all thanks to him. And because I really don't have any business knowing any of this stuff. Like I maybe studied a fraction of what these attorneys and other people have studied, yet I somehow seem to know it. So that has to be past life and some grace also.
I was going to ask you about the. I'm glad that you mentioned that you helped some people get out of prison, because that was one of the things that you mentioned to me in the email, one of the emails we exchanged before this podcast. That you helped some people get out of prison, which is, I'm sure a lot of people love to know how you've done that. Your knowledge of the law and consumer law and kind of legal issues, is that kind of international, or is that particularly focused on the United States? For example, could people in the United Kingdom come to you for help as well on a range of issues?
Yes, so basically wherever England touched it applies. So as they're basically everywhere. Everywhere, the whole world uses the international commercial system. Anywhere that has a debt fiat currency, generally all their laws are the same. They're all based on what's called the Uniform Commercial Code. The Uniform Commercial Code has been codified into all of the laws across most countries.
Mm.
So in the US, the UCC is codified in legislation like the Bank Secrecy Act, the Trading with the Enemy Act, which basically created this whole controversial combative legal system. And I'm not as knowledgeable on the specific laws in England. I know there's the very famous Sestukavy Trust Act of 1666 that's extremely well known. You also have the Bill of Exchange Act, and you have these different acts that basically institute the commercial fiat currency system. And then that has bled into most places. It's like that in India. It was like that in Ivory Coast when I was there. It's like that in Dubai. They just try to get around it. Like Dubai tries to use these like special banking products that don't charge you any interest, but they just charge you a bunch of different fees that basically act as interest so that they're not doing usury.
Mm.
But it's basically usury. And so that whole system, I can go into the whole history of all that, but to answer your question, yes, I can help people fundamentally. They'll kind of have to do a little bit more work because they're going to have to help me determine the specific legislation that is applicable to that thing, but the
Mm.
principle is exactly the same, right? So there's going to be a law on how money is created and how money is valued and how money is to be accessed by the banks, because the banks are like the gateway to all money. And so you can basically go through the banks to tap into the fiat currency system, but there's a lot of spiritual principles behind it. You can't just use it to, your own self-aggrandizement and gain a lot of wealth and, cars and all that. You have to, they're very, because my father worked for the federal government, I understood this very well. The feds are controlling the system, and they're looking to see how you're going to use these resources and how you're accessing them. And they will make a determination on if you're a risk or if you're not a risk, and if they'll kind of let you in, because it's really a good old boys club. But a lot of the institutions, like for example, the courts, they're using this monetary system to capitalize off of these victimless crimes. And so they're fishing. That's why they're fishing, to give you a bunch of charges and get you to plead guilty by basically overwhelming you and making you afraid of the consequences of actually going to trial. And so I have successfully helped people by basically communicating to the court that you're aware of the financial issue and that they have failed to do the taxes.
Mm.
And when you do that, the whole mood changes. And so I have a course on how that works. The
So
whole
you
thing
you run
started from
courses that people
the
can.
Roman civil law.
Hmm. Sorry, I kind of cut you off.
Sorry,
I
there's a
noticed
little
you
bit of a
mentioned the
lag.
word. I noticed that you mentioned the word course, and I think I've seen on your social media channels that you run courses online for people that might want to seek your help or seek your support with a range of issues.
Yes, that's correct. So, it is tailored towards the US,
Yeah.
but it does apply in most countries. As for example, in the US, we have the Department of the Treasury. In England, they might be called, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they're called, but they have a treasurer. They have someone
You
who
probably still
he
know more than
handles.
I do. Well, there's the governor of there's the Bank of England, which is independent from the state, I think,
Yes.
independent from the government. And there's the governor of the Bank of England. But I
Yep.
don't know if that's I don't know much about this kind of
Yeah. Well,
system.
England is the only country that I know that actually has a bank of their country. So, like in the US, we don't have a Bank of US. We have the Federal Reserve, right? And then, and same with all the banks in the UAE, there's a bunch of commercial banks, the Bank of Abu
Mm.
Dhabi, the Emirates Bank. There actually isn't any central bank. There is a central governing body and it is a central bank, but it's not the UAE central bank,
Yeah.
or Bank of UAE. They are a federal, they are technically a completely independent organization that is actually owned by private families. A lot of people don't know this, but they're not owned by the government because the government actually can't own anything. Government can't own property. It can only have an interest in property, which is that's a commercial term for basically they have a claim to it with like paperwork, but they're not actual guardians of the land or the holders of the land. And that's very, very old Talmudian system because the Jews were very disliked in many places of the world and they weren't allowed to own property. So what they would do instead is they would give people loans and basically have a lien on their property, and that's how they controlled the property without owning it. And that's how we've gotten to the system today.
Mm. Can we just go back to talking about the ashram that you're part of,
Yeah, sure.
get back to kind of spiritual issues, which is an area I feel
Yes.
much more comfortable with.
Yeah.
um, if somebody wants to come and visit the ashram or visit the ashram, stay at the ashram, how can they find out more about it?
Yeah, best thing to do is just contact me directly. Because it's not like I said, it's not like there's some well-known places like the Govardhan Eco Village and things like that. Like we're not like hosting retreats or hosting anything like that. We're really looking for volunteers who want to, help us in our mission. And so if they just contact me directly, my office number is going to be in that link tree.
Yep.
They can call us if they're international. I have all my social medias there, so they can reach me there, and they can find out more about it. Because people are welcome, but we have to kind of gauge who we're dealing with because we do have some elderly people here. I can't like make major changes all the time really fast, so I have to, have an understanding of who I'm dealing with. And because there's so many ISKCON organizations, if you're interested in bhakti, I can very easily arrange you with an ISKCON center, and you can, and they can help with a lot of the arrangements, and then you can come and visit, and then we can develop that relationship and then grow from there. I'm really someone who believes that if you want a really good relationship, you have to take time. And it's in my opinion dangerous to just be so trusting with people so quickly. Just because they might be good at speaking or they might use some spiritual flowery language doesn't necessarily mean that they actually feel that way internally. So I let people judge me by my behavior and being
Mm,
around me
mm.
rather than just how I'm talking.
Absolutely. And pleased that you've sent me your details so I can share them with this broadcast, because I want people to get in touch with you. I would love for people to find out more about the ashram, and the community that you're part of. That's what we do here at the Hare Krishna Project. We're passionate about bringing people together and connecting people together and sharing people's stories. You know, before you, 100 other people have shared their stories. But I have to
Right.
say, I don't remember anyone talking about business as in depth as you have. Your knowledge of the business world and the work that you do, I don't remember any guest before talking about that particular topic in that way. So this is the first here at the Hare Krishna Project for that. I'm conscious of the time. We've had a fantastic conversation with our
Yes.
viewers listening in for the last hour. Is there anything else that you particularly want to share that you wanted to share with us today that you don't think has come out in the conversation?
I mean, I always like to say this at the end of every broadcast that I do. Um, it doesn't matter whether you are lifetime ISKCON member, if you're just hearing about the Hare Krishna movement, if you're a part of another spiritual or religious organization. The only important thing that you need to keep in your mind is that one, there is God, he does exist, and he's not just an idea, he's not just a ball of light. He is all of those things, but he is also someone that you can relate with on a personal level. And that he has been trying to relate with you this whole time. And you just haven't really been noticing, similar to a child playing at the playground, doesn't really notice their parents, even though their parents are there the whole time, watching over them, making sure they're okay. They're kind of in their own imaginary world. And you're probably watching this broadcast or other broadcasts by the project, kind of coming out of that little imaginary, cycle that you've been a part of. And now you're realizing, wow, my father's been there the whole time. And he doesn't really care what you call yourself. He doesn't care if you call yourself a Christian, a Buddhist, a Muslim, or whatever you call yourself. What he cares about is that you follow the directions of the spiritual master for that particular understanding and that tradition. That some kind of structure I think is valuable for others, and that you should strive to try to embody those teachings and try to experience that peace. If you're a Christian, try to experience the kingdom of heaven being within yourself. If you're a Buddhist, try to experience having that non-ego experience of not always craving things, I, me, mine. And if you are a part of one of the Vaishnava traditions, try your best to embody the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, which is, to do things without a desire for their results. That's a higher thing than gaining knowledge or philosophical speculation. Krishna says that's the best. If you're not on the pure bhakti platform,
Mm.
doing things without expectations of the results is the best thing that you can do. And so try to do that, and try to experience those holy vibrations. Just try to do that, and naturally, if you're sincere, you will be given all of the resources to grow very rapidly on that path, just as Krishna did for me.
That's a wonderful note to end on, I think, Balaram Prabhu.
Yes.
It's really been fantastic to hear your story this week. What a way to start 2024 with a very encouraging story, such as yours. I've taken lots of notes because I'm feeling very inspired by your story. You've certainly achieved a lot, whether materially or spiritually, even perhaps at such a young age. If only I was thinking the way you were thinking at 27 years old. Um, some things might have gone very differently. It's been fantastic to have Balaram as our 101st guest on the Hare Krishna Project podcast. The American who went to India to run an ashram. What a story! Don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit the all-important subscribe button so you're kept updated about future podcasts from the Hare Krishna Project. We've got a fantastic lineup of guests coming up over the next couple of weeks. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please do like, love, or care for this podcast, and put a positive comment. We love to hear feedback in terms of how we're doing and on what we're doing. And do not forget, if you want to be a guest on the Hare Krishna Project podcast, get in touch. Our contact details are on our social media channels. So until next week, I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.